Hello everybody, Corey here. Just a reminder, I'm not a qualified licensed investment or financial advisor. I gather the data, present it to you. You make your own decisions and take your own actions from that. And then just to go into the YieldMax ETFs here, they are extremely risky. They are income ETFs, not growth ETFs. So please understand what you're investing in before doing so. Just know, just because I'm going over these does not mean that I am invested in all of these. And also, if you're looking for YBit or Ulti, those are in different videos. And if you're not looking to review the trades and holdings and the strike prices and all that stuff more in detail, please check out the roundup video, please, if you do not want to go to this level of detail. But anyway, we're going to jump straight into this. So we have AIYY here. We don't have any trades to go over. Apparently, I still haven't updated the color codes, but this Friday is May 10th. So these should be red, but they will expire on Friday. So the short call for AIYY that expires on Friday has a $25 strike price. We're currently underneath that by 1%. For those of you that are new to watching this or don't know much about options, in the case of these long positions here, we want the stock price to be above the synthetic strike price, but below the short call strike price. Of course, this isn't a great example because they're both $25. And that will happen because the synthetics are put out months in advance. As you can see, it's May. These don't expire till July, so it won't always be the perfect situation. So, and in fact, in this case, you can see that we are underneath that synthetic strike price by 1%. And then in column AB, this is the market value per share price. So we have the market value in column T, which is the overall, but it's like, how does that affect, or how do we compare that to the stock price, right? That's what column AB is. So that's telling us how this affects the AIYY stock price. So the $12 and 30 cents or 37 cent, we're looking at the NAV there. We can see that, negative 1 cent or about, because, these are going to be rounded numbers, and negative 19 cents for the short call. So that's negative 20 cents. And then the rest of it's coming from the treasuries, and everything else for the positive numbers in this case. And then we have a column with possible upside. So for that specific short call, there could be like a 12-cent upside, which, we're only 24 cents from the strike price, and this stock price is roughly, half, right? AIYY is about half of AI, so that makes sense, right? If 24 cents between the strike price and the stock price, that our upside is about 12 cents. And that's specific, to the short call there. Just trying to think. Of course, once we get closer to the actual expiration date, depending on where we're at, we could end up closing this out, 1 to 5 cents a share on Friday. It just depends, but the minimum is 1 cent there. And I don't remember when AI... Okay, I wasn't sure when they reported. I just looked it up real quick, and it's showing right now, which these things move, and this is a minute out, but it's showing the end of the month. And Palantir actually just reported, and it went way down. So I'm surprised that AI did not go down with it today. They usually sort of go similar, hand in hand there. But anyway, and now we'll just sort of try to move on through the rest of these. So AMDY. So I've seen this as I glanced through these today, that a lot of these were being, some of the shares are being sold out of. So we do have some closed transactions. However, we'll see them over here because it's just where they were closing out small lots of it. where some people were selling out of them. So for AMDY, they closed out 210 contracts, so the synthetic position and the short call position with the $155 strike price. And you can see by doing so, it cost roughly $144,000 to close those out. And then we have 2 short calls that expired this week with the 150 strike price, which is where half of our contracts are, and we're over that by $4.43. And then we have the $155 strike price, which we're only under by 57 cents. We also, just to add more, to the hurt of AMDY here, we have the synthetic position that expires next week with a $160 strike price, and we're under that by 3%. So if we go over here to the per share price, we're negative 59 cents for the synthetic positions, or the synthetic positions are bringing the stock price down 59 cents a share, and then the short calls are bringing the stock price down 42 cents a share. So, and over on the right hand, we have a possible upside of 25 cents, and then a possible upside, sorry, that's actually negative 25 cents, but the other one shows possible upside of 3 cents. But for that, in this case, those really aren't that 3 cents isn't going to be anything because of half of the contracts being split at this other one. And, if the stock price does go up to the 155, then the negative is just going to keep getting worse on the first short call. So it's just probably going to cancel. It may not be exactly cancel each other out, but it's just basically going to make it so it's not going to get any of that upside there. Not sure how much upside it could get based on the synthetic, because that short call would keep going negative more and more and more as the stock rises. So we might get some positiveness, some upside on the synthetic, but then it could be somewhat canceled out there by the short call. I don't know. You can see right now, if we look at yesterday's stock price, we were at 1660, and today we're at 1663. So I have not gone back to see where we were yesterday. So yesterday it had actually come up quite a bit. Today we just have a 3 cent difference. Of course, the thing looking at here, we were above it. So we were above both strike prices yesterday. Had to think. Yesterday. So the stock price actually came down a little bit today, and when it did, apparently, AMD stock price went up 3 cents, which is because this other one isn't over the strike price anymore. So let's go back up here. So, okay. Let's move on. But it's been a very bad month for AMDY. That is for sure. Of course, that synthetic is starting to recover some, but this has dropped, $5 or so. If we move on to AMC, we have no trades here. We do have 3 short calls that expire on Friday, 187.50, 190, and 192.50 strike prices. We can see for the first one, which is where the majority of our contracts are, almost all of them, 4,000 of them are that 187.50 strike price. So it looks like the stock price for Amazon came up 6 cents today. Believe it or not, AMC came up 4 cents. But we are above that, $1.26. But everything else is positive on this board. But you can see here, and I'm not saying I want to compare each day, it's just we haven't had anything good to really compare things to, because everything was just going in one direction only. So it came up 6 cents today. So yesterday, for the synthetic position, it was positive 64. And today we're actually positive, 0.73. So this actually came up 9 cents, but that's because the market value, right? So it doesn't exactly follow the stock price. It's based on the market value of our synthetic positions at close that day. But that did end up coming up 9 cents. But then, of course, this is now negative 29 cents. I didn't look to see what it was. Yeah, it was negative, am I on the right stock? Yeah, 35 cents yesterday. Sorry, I was looking here at the stock prices, because this one actually says yesterday's stock price was closed at 23.06. Oh, well, yeah, 23.06, and this says 23.10. I know it's just a few cents, and it could just be a matter of something didn't update before I copied and pasted the data, which is a possibility, but it's only supposed to be like a 15 or 20 minute lag, and if I'm doing it an hour or two after the fact, my assumption is that it's fully updated, right? Without looking each one up. But yeah, so I'm looking here on the actual chart, and it tells me 23.06 was right. So this on this chart was right yesterday. Oh, so I'm not sure why it is wrong on today's. Yeah, it should not. It shouldn't return a different stock price, because it tells it this. It's telling it to return the data for close of yesterday. So I'm not sure why it's 4 cents off. But now that makes me want to check a few more of those, or at least a spot check or something there. Alright, so what I did, I accidentally pushed this to the side, but by doing so, it shows here that we had trades. So I almost missed that. But anyway, so we can see here, I mean, obviously you see them on the holdings, but to actually look at the trades here, you might want to know that as well. So they added 135 contracts to the synthetic position that they already had, but then what they did is they split those contracts between two of the short calls. And then so overall, this ended up negative $72,000 to make those trades. And of course, I'm on the wrong tab. Oh. So let's double check. Trades. MD. Yep. I double checked these. So I'm not sure what happened here, and there's no formula there. But all of those are showing here. I don't know how they're not showing on the other one. Maybe something happened when I copied and pasted. But yeah, they split those contracts, the 135 there, between those two short calls with the 190 and 192.50. Obviously, they wouldn't have done it to the first one because it was already over the strike price there. So I guess instead of choosing one of the other two, they just decided to split it there. So now it's going to make me double check. So no Apley, Coney. All right, so we go to Apley, no trades. We have 2 short calls here. We have one that expires this week, which only has 75 contracts. It's already over the strike price of $177.50 by 3%. About $5 or $4.90 there. It's over. And then we have one for next week already, which is where almost all of the contracts are at the $187.50 strike price, which were under 3%. And then you can see here how this affects the share price over here. And then there is the possibility of some upside there. Roughly 40 or so cent upside. And then we go to Coney. So we did have those 3 close that you saw on the other. Oh, I know why AMZ did not. Because, so this one, it was there when I did the holdings and I saved it, and then for some reason it wasn't. Like when between the time of me checking everything and copying and pasting the data, it wasn't there when I was going back through, and I had to recopy it over, and I failed to change the formulas on the new and existing to pull from the right place. That's why those were missing. Sorry, it just hit me. But anyway, Coney here, they had 280 contracts. So somebody, they've had some, I guess, people sell out of this one. And so that's why they had to close some positions here. But we have 3 short calls that expired this Friday. Strike prices $230, $237.50, and $255 are currently underneath those by 7, 10, and 16%. And then we still have our synthetic that expires next week. And we're 18% below the strike price. If we want to look to see how that affects the stock price itself, you can see that Coney is down $4.61 due to the synthetic shares or the synthetic positions, whatever you want to call them. And we can see on the left-hand side, if we had to have closed them out today, at close, it would have cost $91.42 million to do so, which is significant when the net assets here, we have it, $435. Obviously, if we didn't have that negative, it'd be over $500,000. So about 20%, we're going to pay about 20% of the net assets basically at this point to close those. So that's significant. So we'd really like for this stock to come up this next week. So, yeah. So maybe we can recover some of that before we have to close it out because it expires next Friday. Of course, we can see here on the short calls, we have some possible upside, so we can possibly get a couple of dollars just, looking at the short calls. But, looking at, well, yeah, I would say a couple of dollars because once it starts going over the strike price, then yeah, the synthetic's going to come up, but then the short calls would bring it back down. So if we could get up to that, 237 strike price, that would be great. And then maybe we can recover some more next week. But anyway, let's move on. So we have Dizzo here. They added 115 contracts to the existing synthetic position, and then they created a new short call for this week with a strike price of $107 because, Disney had earnings pre-market this morning, and then they dropped, I can't remember, 10 or so percent. I don't know off the top of my head. But they... Well, you can see over here they dropped almost $10. So I guess it wasn't quite 10%. I just think that I saw it negative 10% at one point today. So much for my wish of them coming up to the synthetic position that they were way under because they were getting there slowly but surely. And I guess they thought they would do better earnings than they did, and they did not close it out. And now we are negative 12% under the synthetic position. And then we have our short calls of 107 and 120, and we're underneath those by 2 and 12. So we can see right now the synthetic position is bringing the share price down $2.54 a share, and it only has a week and a half to expiration, so this probably won't be recovered. The synthetic itself. Of course, if we look down at our short calls, I mean, yeah, if they can come up to 120, I just don't think they will. There's obviously that possibility of the upside of $2 and something there. But yeah. Moving on to Phoebe here, we have 2 short calls that expire Friday, 455 and 450 strike price, which, look at that, we're over both of these. So over both of these by 3 and 2%. Then we have our synthetics, and we're underneath those by 9 and 11%. So this one's just all wrong. It's backwards on both ends. So we can see, all we see is a sea of red here on Phoebe. We're currently down, $2.30 a share based on the synthetic positions, and we're down 47 cents a share based on these short calls. So moving on to GUI here, they added 60 contracts to this synthetic position and created a new short call that will expire on Friday with a 172.50 strike price. As you can see, we have also the 170 strike price, but we are already over that by $1.25. So we are underneath the new strike price by $1.25. Look at that. So we're right in the middle of those two. Of course, the majority of our contracts are at the 170 strike price. But our synthetic position strike price is also 170, so I'm surprised they didn't close that out this week. I guess they figure they're past earnings, so there shouldn't be any big movements there. I don't know, but the synthetic's bringing the stock price up now 16 cents, but the short calls are bringing the strike price down. Bringing the stock price down 24 cents a share there based on their market value. JPMO, we have 2 short calls that expire Friday, 192.50 and 195 strike price. We are currently under the first one by 75 cents and the other one 2%. Of course, we have our synthetic positions that expire next week, and we're underneath those by 4%. So the synthetic's bringing the stock price down 82 cents a share. And then looking at our short calls here, there's a possibility of upside of 6 cents, it looks like, based on those. If you look at Murney here, so we've had some sellouts here. So they've sold 100 contracts of the short call and synthetics. And then we have the short call that expires this Friday at the 131 strike price, which we're under 8% or $10. But we are above our synthetic, but this one's already been moved out to July. So you can see over there, there's a possibility of some upside of roughly $1.52 based on the, let's see, so they closed, based on that short call. So it would be nice if this one would come up. Of course, it had earnings, and I think possibly something else. It's brought this stock down a couple of dollars, so it'd be nice to get that one back up there. Let's move on to MSFO. So they added 30 contracts to the synthetic position and created a new short call with a strike price of $417.50, in which they're currently under by 2%. They also have the $412.50 and the $415. Then we have our synthetic positions here that expire next week, $425 strike price, and we're underneath those by 4%. So the synthetic position is bringing the stock price of MSFO down 81 cents a share. If we look at the short calls down there, it looks like a possibility of upside of 15 cents for MSFO based on those short calls there. Looking at Misty, they added 50 contracts to the synthetic positions and created a new short call with those 50 contracts with a new strike price at $13.70. That does expire this Friday, and we're currently underneath that by 8%. And then we have the other short call with the $13.15 strike price, which are under by 4%. And of course, we're under the synthetic here, but it's out a couple of months. But it is right now bringing down the share price 65 cents for the synthetic, and then our short calls bringing it down some there, I guess, based on the volatility and stuff of this, because we're not over our strike price there. So it looks like we have a possibility of upside about $1.25 here a share for that short call. But let's move it up. So Netflix here, we don't show any trades. I don't think I had that other issue with anyone else, but let's just make sure. Since I had one. Learning, yeah, Netflix. I don't think. Yeah, remember squeeze, so yeah. Okay. So Netflix here, we have the short call that expires Friday with a strike price of $5.85, and yesterday it looks like we were at $5.96 or $5.97 really, and now today we're at $6.06. So not sure what's making Netflix go up the last couple of days, but we are over the strike price of the short call by 4%. And then we have our synthetic position that expires next week, in which we are still underneath that strike price by 5%. So the synthetics bringing the stock down 82 cents a share, and the short calls bringing the stock down 68 cents a share. Yeah, so I'm not sure. It looks like the NAV is only 1669, but Netflix is somehow up at 1680. Let's look over here. Yesterday, I guess I went too far. Yeah, so we were over yesterday also. The stock price yesterday was $16.68, which was the same as the NAV. Today the NAV is $16.69. Stock price says $16.80. But it's probably truly should be around that $16.69. But let's move on down to NVIDIA. So we have two short calls that expire Friday. Strike price $8.90 and $9.20. And then you see we were above both of these strike prices yesterday, and today the stock price dropped, looks like roughly $16. So we are over the one by 2%, under the other by 2%. Of course, the majority of our contracts are sitting at that $9.20 strike price, so we just really want to keep them under that $9.20, because we also have our synthetic positions that expire next week, and they're $9.15. So anything between $9.15 and $9.20 is a great spot to be for NVIDIA this week. So we can see that the synthetic position right now is just bringing the share price down 25 cents a share. And then our short call that's bringing this down isn't even over the strike price, but I guess volatility and market value there of the options. But we do have some upside that we can do if we can go up $15 a share price up to $9.20, like I was already talking about. So move on to OARC here. We have a short call that expires Friday with a $46 strike price, which we're only 45 cents below. We do have our synthetic that expires next week, and we're currently below that strike price by 9%. So that synthetic is bringing the OARC stock price down $1.16 a share. And then we have the possibility of 11 cent upside here beside that short call. If we move on down to PayPay, we have two short calls that expire Friday, $68, $69 strike prices. We're underneath those, 3% and 4%. We're almost at $66. And then we're not too worried about our synthetics, but it looks like we do have some upside over here for these. So maybe, I don't know, maybe 50 cents or something, just looking at the number of shares and estimate over there of the possible upside of each one of those. SQUE here, again, closing out some of these 140 contracts. And then we have the two short calls that expire this Friday. $72 strike price, 72 and 73. We're below those by 1 and 2. We are 40 cents from the $72 strike price. And these two have the shares roughly split We do have our synthetic position that doesn't expire until next week, and it has a strike price of $80. We're underneath that by 11%. So the synthetic position here is bringing the stock price down $2.51. There is some possible upside, but not much, roughly 5 or 6 cents it looks like over here. Maybe 10 cents if that synthetic can come up, but well, obviously it would come up, but I just don't know how much upside we're going to get here. But we're going to move on to Tesla. We have 3 short calls that expire Friday, 182.50, 185, and 195 strike prices, 3, 4, and 9% below those. Majority of the contracts are sitting at the 185 strike price. And we have 2 synthetics there, but those are out in July. So looking pretty decent over here, but we do have some upside that we could capture on these. So we want the stock price, even though we have 3 different strikes here, what we wanted to do is get up to that like 185. Well, I guess it really doesn't matter this week. We don't have any synthetics expiring, so I mean, if it got up to 182.50, that would be fine, right? We wouldn't have to pay any extra to close anything out. If the synthetics were expiring, then I would say, no, let's try to get closer to the 185, which is where the majority of the contracts are. But this week, we're in no rush. No rush, at least not on that one. And that's because we already paid a bunch of money to close those. Zomo here, short call for this Friday, 117 strike price. We are 83 cents away from that. And then we have our synthetics, which were 3% below with the 120 strike prices there. So the synthetics bring the stock price down 69 cents a share. Looks like a possibility of 13 cents upside there for that short call. And then we have a crash here, which is our short, our one and only short at this point. So think the opposite in this case. And when you're looking at the short and the synthetic here, so on our synthetic of strike price 180, we want the stock price to be below it, which today I think is the first time it's been below it. So we're down below it 1%. And then the short put here, again on the short call, we don't want the strike price to go above the strike price. But for the short put, we do want it to go above the strike price of 175, which is where we're at. So we're in that sweet spot between those two, just the opposite of the others. And then we also, in this case, have the long call, which is, similar to the short calls we have. On the single stock ones, the difference is the expiration's out longer. And then, of course, we're way further out. So in this case, you see 265. So we are below that strike price by 33% here. So today was a significant jump for this. So it went from $19.78 yesterday to $20.39 today. Because Tesla did drop today. As you can see, Tesla yesterday was at 184.76. And today it closed at 177.81. And then, of course, you can see how it affects the share price over here as far as looking at that market value there. The outstanding shares have not changed for this one just yet, which is surprising since everybody, hates Tesla and everybody wants to short Tesla. You would think, several days into this now that our outstanding shares would have increased by now. But anyway, we have YMAG here at $20.30, YieldMax at $20.52, and then I don't ever mention the other two there. Anyway, hopefully you're all happy I'm getting this out earlier than I did for yesterday's video. But anyway, thanks for hanging out. Again, if y'all aren't wanting this much of detail, make sure you're checking out the daily roundup. And thanks for hanging out with me, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye.